ever be is this present moment. The past and the future all exist in this present moment. There is no such thing as the past and the future. There's actually no such thing as time. Time is an illusion that was created by the thinking mind. Because before the mind was really thinking, there was no time. Things just existed. And so pure consciousness is what you are. So when somebody asks you what you are, you'll say, "Oh, well, I'm the founder, and I'm the host of American Real, and I'm a father, and I'm all that." Well, you're that in this physical avatar world. But in the end, it's all just masks that you have literally just have been either society has put on you, or you have said, "This is what I am." Unless it deals with love, joy, compassion, those are natural things. Those are things that are not made up in the mind. Think about it. Love is not something that you can think about. It's the only way that you can experience love is to feel it. You can't force yourself to love somebody. You can't think about loving somebody and love them. It's in my opinion, it's the single thing that has created everything and can heal anything, is that feeling. So in the end, all we are ever really searching for is a connection. All of us. And I don't care who you are or what status you are, it's all an illusion. It's all a game. It's all just this hierarchy of how we place people here or we do things. In the end, that person, in their quiet moment, if they're having pain, it's because they're not feeling connected. And that's really what it's about. But I could see when you're presented information that is just totally out of the norm of how you've operated your entire life, because I know I've been there and I've done the same thing. I've been on the other side where I've reacted like that. And I just literally I was like, okay, I see where this is going. I literally got out of my body and went up and saw the awareness and saw what was happening around. Instead of getting caught, because I knew it was a pendulum, I said to myself, all right. And I actually do this thing now where I think it's called this Hawaiian thing called Ho'oponopono. I'm going to get the name mixed up, but I saw it actually on London Real interview that it was probably about 6 months ago. And I'll speed up that story where basically in my mind, in a situation, you're always trying to give love to somebody else, especially whether it's they're in pain or you're in pain or whatever. And basically you just in your mind say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive you, thank you. And over, and like while you're talking, just say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And that's a way I get myself out of the weeds. It's a way I get myself present. And it's the way that, like, if I know that I'm about ready to get anger, I'm like, I just do that in my mind, even just once. And all of a sudden, brings you back, present. So I was doing that, and I was like, okay, I see this. Now, I can't stop the conversation because he doesn't want to stop the conversation, and he actually wants to learn. And he did say that. He's like, I'm not getting mad at you because I'm, I think you're crazy, but I'm he started with the limited intelligence, and I'm like, absolutely not. I've been around him enough. He's a very, very successful guy. But when you're hit with these things, so I just literally said, okay, let me just put it this way. Let's just put it this, what if you didn't know about something and you learned about something, and what about a thought? Where do your thoughts come from? It's like, well, my mind. And I'm like, okay, do you know that for a fact? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so nobody can prove a thought comes from your brain. We don't know where it comes from. Don't know where. I was like, all right, what about your heart rate, your heartbeat? Can you stop your heart? Then he started like, oh. He's like, yeah, but I can control it. I'm like, oh, you can? He's like, okay. What about your digestion? If you start eating something and once it starts going down, can you control where it's going? And now I'm like, now I've got him to a point where it's like, now I've got him things that he can understand because we all eat. We all digest, we all have heartbeats. We all, where does our breath come from? So then it calmed down a little bit. And I was like, these are things that just happen. We don't know how they happen. They just happen. And guess what? They happen for us. That's how we have life. I was like, so these things that I'm talking about that you're getting angry about, I'm just saying, you don't know how that happens. You don't know how anything happens, really. You should just question things. Just if you think you're 100% right on something, I probably guarantee you're 100% wrong. Because if you're that emphatic, because the only reason that I'm saying is because I've been that way, and I still do it from time to time. But now I have the awareness, and I try to catch myself.
And what was the subject matter? Wasn't it something over some younger folks that?
Yeah. We were talking about a generational thing, and the big rap that everybody's talking about right now is millennials. Oh my God, they're just lazy. They're going to ruin the country. And not that I even want to even get into politics, but there's a lot of things that are happening. So there's a lot of young people coming in, and I actually I just sit back and smile. I think this is great. I like all of these different sides. These are all pendulums. Especially if you look at the political arena, which I don't watch the news anymore, or whatever, but it's too hard not to know what's going on. But the awareness that you realize that both sides, all three sides, whatever sides there are all captured in pendulums. If everybody's telling you that they're right, and everybody is just, and groups of people come together, it's a pendulum. Unless it deals with love, joy, compassion, those are natural things. Those are things that are not made up in the mind. Think about it. Love is not something that you can think about. It's the only way that you can experience love is to feel it. You can't force yourself to love somebody. You can't think about loving somebody and love them. It's in my opinion, it's the single thing that has created everything and can heal anything, is that feeling. Now, we have bastardized what love is and the meaning of love and what it is because people put labels on it. Just like God, the term God has created so many wars. My God, your God, my God doesn't like you. You got to believe in my God, the whole thing. The same thing with love. People have killed over love because they don't understand what that is because it's in their mind. And when, in essence, love is not something that can ever be anything other than a feeling. And the way that you really tap into that feeling is when you get your heart and your mind centered together. And that is the only way of manifesting anything that you have in your life. The real things that you want, the things that are deep down, your desires and your real goals, the way they come into manifestation is that connection where your heart and your mind are flowing together, and that's how it happens. So think about it. Just think about all the times when you're in flow state. What happened?
Came through.
It came through because why? Your love of doing it meshed with your thought process. You weren't thinking about, I'm going to fail. If you're thinking about, I'm going to fail at this, you're not going to create that flow state. And if you're doing something you don't love, what I would recommend to people doing is to kind of get into that flow, because you can't force yourself into it's why it's beautiful. It's why it's so wonderful that these are things you can't control. In the end, you can't control anything other than one thing. Guess what? It goes back to the only thing you can control is awareness. That's it. That's your only purpose in life. It should free everybody in the world. Every single person that's watching this should get a really light feeling right now, because guess what? They don't have to be anybody. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to feel about success. They don't have to look pretty. They don't have to have big muscles. They don't have to do anything. They just have to be aware. And through the awareness, all of that stuff comes. It's the awareness first. It's the present moment first. And then that's how it works. We've got it all wrong. Like there's a great chapter in this book where it's talking about it. It talks about the mirror, because we're both
read that.
It's an amazing thing when you really think about it. This book is just so poignant if you're at that level of consciousness. And don't worry if you start reading it. Just keep having awareness. And that's why I'd say meditate, because it will help you with these kind of things. Because in the end, you are both the person looking in the mirror and the reflection looking back. And guess what we've all done? We've all done it wrong. You do it. Everybody does it. You go in and you look at the reflection first. You rely on the reflection first. And it's what we do. So that is just the symbolism of how we do it in life. You know, we look at other people. We're not good enough. We're looking at that reflection. Your inner, you are the thing. So
that is that awareness.
It's the awareness. So before you look in that mirror, you should say, I am beautiful. I am perfect. I am love. I am all of that. And guess what will happen when you look in the mirror when you truly believe it? You will see the most beautiful thing. You will see love. You will see God. You will see it's everything. So it's really a fascinating concept. And I still have a lot to go on this book, but already in these few, it's just so poignant. And the way that particular book works is read a passage every day for 78 days.
And you go back.
And then keep doing it. And it just reinforces it. And then you start really looking at things so differently, because guess what's happening? You're getting out of your head. And you're going more about this whole kind of, it's a whole completely different operating system. But it's the real operating system. It's not somebody else's operating system. It's your internal operating system. And the other thing that it said in there is you really do not be anything other than your authentic self. And that's when you really start thinking about it. I've been a pretty authentic guy. You've known me for a long time. I've been pretty authentic my whole life. For whatever reason, I just have been, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. And I'm going to do it.
And
I got my convictions. I'm not always right. I make mistakes. Whatever. That's the beauty of it, is that's really, if I've had the success that I've had in my life, it's really come from a combination of things, but really that, because I believed in myself. I believed in my authentic self. I am not afraid to say the wrong thing, which I've said a lot, and I'm not afraid to make those mistakes. But through all of this awareness, I have seen the things that I really need to have more awareness around. And I was about ready to say, try to work on, but guess what? You can't try to work on it. The more you try to work on it, the more you're going to repel it. And he really explains the energy around that and how it's a harmony. And if you want something too bad, guess what you're doing? You're pushing it away. Mm-hmm. And if you're too low energy, if you're like, oh, I'm just going to relax and meditate and let the world come to me, it's going to do the exact opposite. It's going to come in at you at spades. It's going to be like, boom. Energy is about the harmony and I hate to say balance, because people, but it is. I like the word harmony, because it's really what you want to do. So if you find yourself getting too excited about something, boop, there's that signal, the awareness. Oh, because you want it too bad.
Let's talk about this a little bit. I think it's a good time to discuss this, because you've really been coaching me since the inception of American Real, and helping me see all this, and not get too excited about anything, and being able to bring in guests that I may have never thought were possible. But these things are happening because of being aware, not getting overly excited or down, and just letting things happen. And when you do that, it just seems that naturally, I think American Real is a good example. It started as nothing. Here we are, a year and a half in, 100 episodes, just by being consistent, being authentic, trying to be as transparent as possible, and attracting the right people. And I've seen it before my eyes grow as an observer and as part of it. It's just really incredible. But you helped me through this process, and I have to say, if you didn't, it may be different today. It may not even be here. So it's just interesting that when you do become aware of these things and try not to force things, or look at things too far ahead, it's just a nice progression.
Yeah, well, that actually is really great, especially for the followers of American Real, because they've been following you. And if they're new followers, they can go back and watch earlier interviews, and they'll definitely see a progression. And I love the fact that, like, American Real, that's a really good illustration. It came out of nothing. Guess what it came out of? And here's the really wonderful thing is, American Real has always existed. Always existed. It will always exist because it's the most amazing thing to realize is that every opportunity, every nuance that you could ever possibly think is already there. You just have to.
And when you told me that for the first time, it was hard to comprehend.
Yes.
So for people that are watching this, listen to that. And if there's something you're thinking about that you want to bring into your world, you can make it happen.
Yes.
Look, we made this happen. This is, it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? We did it because I wanted to do it, because it was something that came out of love that I wanted to do, because I like talking to people. I love putting out good content. I love having this conversation that now could be heard by many other people. They could hear the same conversation and hopefully benefit from it. So anyone that's listening to this can do the same. You could, whether you want to be an artist, whether you want to do your own podcast, whether you want to write a book, whatever it is you want to do, you could do it.
Well, yeah,
there.
Yes, it's there with the awareness and with the so. It's great for us because there's a situation how, because you never do anything completely alone, ever in life. It always takes other people to do them.
Right.
And when partnerships or when marriages or when relationships or when groups are really effective, is when they're all operating on the same thing, where they're all aware and they're all operating from that combination of the love and the mind working together. So, we've had a long history because we've grown up together and played sports, but you are writing this book, and I don't know if you've said it, but I'm going to just say you're writing a book that it made our relationship come together a little bit more. And I had this situation that happened to me in my life where I got hurt and was in a really bad place. And so you were already there in my life. So you were helping me as well as my brother. And it was through podcasts that really helped me because my brother was feeding me podcasts. And then I said to you, let's get a group together because let's do something, a production company or whatever. Now, I knew that I couldn't do it. I'm a painter. I do this, I do that. But if you get the right people together, and so the only people that were left standing was my brother, I, and you. And the only person that really took the initiative was you after the fact. And so, I was away in Florida for that, 5-month period of time. And you were just like you were going to college, basically. Roger went off to American Real College. You didn't know you were going to American Real College, but you did. You went and you learned everything. You did all of those things. It was in your heart to do it. It was in my heart to heal people. It was in your heart to actually make it happen because you've kind of already been doing it. You did the Faces book. You love people's stories. You're a writer. I didn't even know the thing you did in high school where you were, with AJ and all of that and doing your own little, skits.
Right.
This is how the universe works. When you're vibrating at that right frequency, you meet the right person. And guess what? We met at a time where we came together with these ideas because I was going through what would you consider a really bad time, but that bad time produced some great things. And I went through it. If I didn't go through that experience, who knows if this would have even existed because it's like this collision of wonderful things that had happened from that because it was born out of great intention. It was born out of going through it. It was born out of love. And here we are 100 episodes later, and you've landed some of the greatest interviews. And you got yourself on London Real, which is like, people don't even know the backstory of that. And we won't get in it. Someday you can talk about it, but how you manifested that is still mind-blowing. It's still absolutely mind-blowing. And the level that it went to you getting picked to interview Brian Rose, doing a 4.5-hour interview. I mean, I think that's going to break a record. And from that, it's just been really phenomenal. And I like the fact that I can be this guy out here, and I have more time than you to do the spiritual stuff and the meditation and all of that, because I've spent a lot of time in silence, painting, and also that you're working a job, you've got a family, this is a full-time job, and you're doing it. And so it's really great for me, because I literally have become another entity for you, and it works. And you're so open to it, and I tell you a new idea or whatever, and you're like a sponge. And if you don't necessarily comprehend it completely, this has happened before. You'll be like, you'll call me up or you'll text me like, I just had this interview and this dude said the same thing you said 4 months ago, and I understand it. Yeah. And so that's how it works. Because I would have never have understood some of these concepts. So American Real, there's no finish line. It's enjoy the journey. It's being present, like being present with this guest. And you do it. And you had a gift going into it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it. But now you're really starting to come into your own with these. These last few interviews that I saw, from like a Nagel to Peter Sage to the guy in California,
Ed Milet.
And the other one, the very first California.
Trace Gallagher?
No. About 2 months ago.
Sorry, David Meltzer.
Meltzer. And I was not familiar with Meltzer's work
Yes.
until you interviewed him.
Yes.
And you texted me and said, be on the lookout for this one.
Yeah.
And I was blown away, And so there's nobody that you will not get on this podcast that you don't want. You've already proven, so, and you're going to reach a bigger audience. It takes a little bit of time, but I have a feeling you're very close to this like rocket potential, because guess what? You're doing it. If people knew how much money this has come out of your pocket, I mean, you impressed the heck out of Peter Sage, because you literally, the guy's, not in the United States very much, and you found this spot and you traveled there and you brought the set and you flew there and you interviewed him, and it blew him away. And in the end, that's what I keep saying. Don't worry about any of the other stuff. I know it's hard not to, but that's why, we talked about finding somebody that can handle like a CFO, that can handle it, because you can't do it all. And just in the few conversations we had, you're heading towards that.
That's right.
It's about it's about everything comes to you at the level of consciousness that you're at. And in this short period of time, 1.5 years that you've been doing American Real, your level of consciousness has expanded. And of course, guess what's happening? People are meeting you where you're at. And you're just going to continue to keep doing that, because we're all on that journey. And so when people who are not at that level of consciousness, you cannot put them down. You cannot say they're losers, they're this. We're all the same in the end. You should just look at that person as you're looking in the mirror. They are you. And you were there at one point. And you could actually be back there at one point, in essence. So it's just coming at that level of awareness and that understanding and that will really change. And guess what? You don't have to do anything to change them. I don't have to change you. And you know me, I'm very convicted, and I'm not going to do things that I don't want to do.
Right.
I'm just not going to do it. And I'm not going to try to change you. I'm not going to say, oh, well, you need to do this, and this is what it is. I understand that my level of consciousness is that all I have to do is just worry about me. And when you worry about just you, everything around you, which you are a part of now, somehow gets absorbed. And you're doing the same thing, because it's just an incredible thing.
As you're talking about that, a lot of times through that conversation, the word ego keeps coming to my mind. How important is it for us to get our ego in check, so to speak, and not let that really influence.
Again, this interview could have been over in 5 minutes because everything comes down to just awareness. You're not trying to get your ego in check. If you're trying to get your ego in check, you're going to do the exact opposite. You're just going to push it away and draw more ego into you because you're trying to do something. You never want to try to do something. You just want to be. You want to be in the present moment, and you just want the awareness. And magically, I'm telling you, if anybody, just try it. Don't believe a word that I say. Please don't. I know if it sounds crazy, whatever, just try it. Just start trying to be as present as possible. And it takes steps. And I did, like it did. Like when I would literally, so for me, I told you in the first interview, going into the bathroom, whatever it was, to brush my teeth, to go to the bathroom, to fix my, whatever it was, shower.
Present.
It was my present. I called that my presence room. Because I would really, that would be the time that I'd say, I'm going to be present now. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm washing my hands. I'm going to feel myself. And slowly, you start retraining those neural pathways to become present. And so more time, like, and there's apps now that you can get that will ding you. Oh, time to become present. Sit there. If you're working in front of your computer, just take 10 deep breaths and slowly, like, and now, almost consistently, 80% of the time, I eat in presence. I eat mindfully. I don't have anything on. I don't read anything. I just sit there with my food and I eat it. And something has happened. I don't eat as much. And the irony is noticing, like, I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm not trying to build muscles. I'm not trying to do anything. But ironically, my body's changing because I'm mindfully eating. So don't try to go on a diet. Don't try to lose weight. Don't try to do this. Don't try to keep your ego in check. Just watch yourself all the time in every situation, your thoughts, the environment you're in, your emotions, your moods. Just say, oh, there's that mood.
This is such a great conversation. People are going to get so much out of this, Tony, because every time I talk to you, I get something out of it, but it's good to be reminded.
I have to have it.
And I know you have to remind yourself or read books to be reminded. So thank you for this.
It's absolutely my pleasure because, Roger, it is the most simple thing in the world. And to cloud it, like, there's a lot of great self-help people, and you've interviewed a lot of people. And again, there's no one that's my guru. I don't believe 100% of any one of these people that I follow. I just don't. Because I can't, because I keep constantly questioning everything. I have to go with me. I was put on this earth. This avatar, Anthony Brunelli, Tony Brunelli, whoever you want to call me, was put on this earth for some sort of purpose. And here's what the game is for me to find out what that is. Not you to tell me, but me to find out who that is. And guess what? I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to make a mistake. But I'm telling you, and I'm telling the people out there that are listening and watching this, is that to speed it up for you, because I've made the mistakes, the quicker that you can become aware, the more peace you're going to have, and the more manifestations of what you are. It's like a lot of people are doing this because they want certain things. I want this in life. It'll work, but in the end, just be aware. That's all it is, and you will get what you're seeing. You will become who you are, and that really is it. And everybody else in life and school and parents and teacher and friends and government and politics are all going to tell you the exact opposite. And it's going to be tough because you're going to hear it over and over again, and you're going to doubt it. And you're going to be like, oh, I remember Tony's interview and he said this, but not in this situation. Bullshit. There's no situation, there's no thing that this will not work on providing awareness and presence. There's none, because that is all you are. You're getting into your true self because all you are is awareness. It's all. And guess what? We all come from the same awareness. We're just individual awarenesses of the same one. It's like a wave on an ocean. You can't take the wave out of the ocean and the ocean out of the wave. It just doesn't work. But each wave is different. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. And so if there's anything, one nugget that somebody gets from this interview, it's that. It's just in every situation, put the spotlight of awareness and presence into it, and you will have your answer.
Fantastic. Let's talk about a couple of books that you introduced to me. First one is, we've talked about this before, probably super beings.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this.
That book, I remember when I first read it. My brother actually sent it to me when I was in my worst possible, times, going through the roughest part of time. And he just said, "Here, it might help." It was the greatest thing he could have ever done, because it touched something in me of what I felt like when I was a boy growing up in the Catholic religion and not buying into what they were saying and what was going on, and saying one thing and then doing another, and I just was like this, and it made me shun any kind of religion or spirituality. And my mother as well, which is what, when my mother died and we had that argument, if you go back to the first episode, that's where I got in an accident and I got a brain injury and da da da. It was all because of I wasn't in balance, because I had no spiritual side. You have to nurture each one. You have to, your mind, your body, and your soul.
Yeah.
They're interconnected and never can be unconnected. So you can't have one. You can't have one without the other, and if one's too strong, just like these books are so wonderful because they all play off of each other. So that the Super Beings book resonated in such a way because it brought me to the things that I was feeling when I was a child, but couldn't express because you didn't do that. And every time you said something, whether it was a priest or a relative or a friend or the altar boy or whatever, they would say, no, that's not the way it is. So then you just, okay, and then I just rejected everything. But when I read this, it's all empowering, because I don't feel that we live in a world that's against us. I don't think we live, if you believe in a God, you have to believe in something, because there is something that created everything. An energy, whatever you want to call it, it's benevolent. And it's for you all the time. And that book really explained that. And then it explained how you manifest through that true self of yours, and that you are a part of the thing that created everything. In essence, you are it. The very fact of I can't remember who said this, but it is just the most wonderful thing. You do not live a life, you are life. So when you really think about that little sentence, it's so magnificent, because everybody's going around trying to live a life. And if you, like, I got to take the kid, I'm a good parent, I'm this, I'm that. You could be that if you want, but do it. Why don't you be life?
And really enjoy it.
And really enjoy it. Not have to do anything, not try to do anything. So yeah, that Super Beings book is a really powerful book. Again, it came to me at the time that I was open for it. Now, a lot of people might not read that and be turned off, or not understand some things, or say, oh, it's just absolutely malarkey, which is fine. And that was a conversation to finish up with the guy that I had in Florida. Was, in the end, I just said, I was like, there is no right or wrong about it. It's just things meet you at the level of consciousness that you're acting at, that you're living in, that you're being. And guess what? You don't have to do anything. You'll evolve. But it's up to you to how quickly you want to evolve, how open you are going to be to that present moment and to that awareness. And that's the only key. You can't, that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
The Science of Getting Rich.
Yeah, that one.
Wallace Wattles.
That one came out of left field and blew me away. And that one was, thanks to David Nagel. I think David had just started his podcast, and for whatever reason, and this is, I know you'll believe it, but I don't. The books I read, the podcasts I listen to, I don't seek out. They seek me. There is not a single book that I said, oh, this is what I'm going to read now. For whatever reason, they came into the existence because I was open to it.
And that's the same with me.
Yes.
It's unbelievable how that happens.
And I don't know how I came across the Nagel podcast, but I was like, oh, I'll listen to this real quick, because I love his format. The 30-minute, 20 to 30-minute jobber, just him speaking. I know he's starting to have guests, which is fine, but I really
He's doing
hope
2 a week now.
I hope, which I think is great, but I
Yeah.
really like his voice,
Yes, I
just
agree.
him doing it.
Yeah.
Because it resonates very powerful. Like this is a long interview. It's a different purpose. Nagel interviews they get you.
I listen to him every week.
They get you, and
Yep.
and you know what? You don't need a lot of time,
Right.
and in the end, you don't need a lot of time.
Right.
And so when Nagel did his whole podcast on the science of getting rich, I would have never have picked that book up by just the title, never, because I'm not trying to get rich. Ooh, that book is not that. That book is
The title is deceiving.
It is so. And guess what, though? After reading it and truly understanding it, you understand why he called it that.
Absolutely smart.
So that book, and that's an old book. And that book birthed all of the gurus of self-help, and Napoleon Hill, and the movie The Secret, and the book The Secret. Yeah. The woman who did that, the Australian woman, the only reason it came out was after reading The Science of Getting Rich. Earl Nightingale, it was that. He is the Mac Daddy, granddaddy of them all. And hardly anybody knows about him.
1910, folks.
1910, yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Yep.
I don't have it with me. Untethered Soul.
Yes. Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul is definitely a book that should be in that pile. And that thing is so powerful. And again, that came to me too. I just happened to be going through something, and it said the next video up. And I was painting, and I didn't catch it. I didn't I listened to it, and I was just like, what? And next thing I know, I am like blown away. And that book came to me at a time when I really needed to take me to another level of understanding that I was ready for. And that was the book that literally transformed a lot of the people's lives that I gave it to, because it just resonates on a different level. It's a different kind of a book. Then all of those books are completely different, but the wonderful thing is they're all kind of saying the same thing with different voices.
Including my sister. You gave that book to my sister.
Yes. Yeah. And that was a pretty powerful story, because she, I met her through you. She lives in Philadelphia. The only time I interact is if she's out visiting and I'm visiting, you, or that you had the party. And it was for the American Real 1 year anniversary party that she was there, and we had it at my gallery. And I just happened to be talking about it to her, and she got out and wrote it on her phone. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know she was changing this job, and probably one of the most difficult jobs she's ever faced. And she was about ready to just throw it in and say, I'm done. And she read that book, and she was working with some really tough, challenging kids. And I guess her superiors were saying, I've never seen these kids respond. And it was all because she was practicing the teachings that were happening in that book. And then I gave it to another friend who's having some health challenges, and we've been friends for quite a long time. And he's my big skeptic, which it's fine. It's great. We all operate at different levels, and I love him because he's so transparent and honest with me. It's like, you're pushing too hard. I'm like, okay, nope, I get it, I understand. So I back off. And so out of the blue, I just sent it to him. I just sent him the book. He didn't even know who it's from. And he called me up and he's like, I think I got something from you. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, read it or don't. And he's like, I've read the first 4 chapters. And I've just had a spiritual awakening reading the book. And I'm like, wow. And then I went on a trip with him, a very long trip, and I got to actually witness the awakening in person. Because I've known this guy for probably almost 20 years. And I was just blown away. I was blown away by what I witnessed and what transformed on the trip. And since then, I actually just had lunch with him yesterday. And, I didn't do it. It was sent through me.
And that's what people have to realize.
That's
right?
what they have to realize.
Yes. Whether it's that, whether it's money, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Goes through us.
It's just through us. We
Yeah.
don't do anything.
Right.
And the more you try to do something,
right,
the more you're going to
like a
repel it.
magnet.
Yes.
Two magnets coming together. Tom Bilyeu put up a post yesterday on Instagram and just talking about how important it is to read, to expand your mind, to give you new thoughts, to create. Because if you're not reading, it's an exercise.
It sure is.
To stay stimulated. And I appreciated that he put that out there. And he's on my list, Tom Bilyeu.
Oh, yes.
We would love to have him on the show. You talked about it earlier, but let's just finish up on this, and that's transurfing, which Peter Sage mentioned in the episode that I interviewed him. You got this right away, and you've already talked a little bit about it, but
yeah. Well, a little backstory is the great thing about this guy, Vadim, I think his name is that he's a really mysterious Russian physicist, I guess, and he's not in it for the money or whatever, or doesn't want to be a guru, and so everything is online. There's people that have read his books online, and he obviously condones it. So I went online and YouTubed the first 8 chapters of the book and listened to it while I was painting, and literally while I was painting and listening to this, it resonated so much that a lightness came through my body that lasted for days. And I talked to my brother and he did the same thing, and he said the same thing happened to him. Like literally, it was probably a 2.5, 3 days feeling of just this lightness that happened after I listened to that.
Was that the link that you sent me?
The link that I sent you.
So we'll post that in the show notes.
Yeah, post that in the show. That's a great way to start. And if those people who have tough time reading or don't feel like
is that the 5-hour?
That's the 5-hour
one.
one. So if you're going on a trip, and I recommend just breaking it up because it can be too intense. And what I sent it to a few people, and I just told them, stick with it and just take it slow. Because the first probably hour, you're like, and then it changes. And then it's just like,
so stick through it.
Stick with it. And even if you break it up in 10 different times, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And so from that, I obviously did a little bit of more research on this guy, and I went on his website, and they had this transurfing in 78 days. I was like, all right, this is a no-brainer. I'm definitely gonna do this. So I'm on day 10, I think, of it, and I'm just
already.
Now that is actually a really great way for somebody who doesn't have a lot of time, because he gives a little intro, which is maybe a chapter you read, and then every day you just read a passage, which is really a half a page to a page and a half.
And aren't you supposed to go back and read?
Yeah, and so basically go back, and what I've found myself doing is I don't have to read the entire thing. Yeah, so I go back over and I just, okay, I remember that concept. Okay, today's day 11. I'm going to read day 11. It's been mind blowing. It's really in just that short period of time that you're like, what's going to happen after 78 days? And then I don't normally do this, but I was like, I'm interested to hear the testimonials. And if you read the testimonials of what has happened after that, it's just
lives.
It literally, well, it's so radical. It's so radical from way we have been trained to operate. And I hate to say think, because you really can't think about this stuff. The more you think about it, your mind's going to go to the past or the future, and you're going to say, this is malarkey, you can't do this. That's why you really have to surrender and surrender to the present moment and the awareness. And
all goes back to that.
If you do that, here's the thing I'd like to say to non-believers of this, because it's great. I don't care. I don't expect it to be for a lot of people, because I know now how things work, and we get things where we're at, where our level of consciousness is at. And if you're at a conscious level where you're constantly in your thought and whatever, you're not going to buy these things. But I will say this. If I'm here professing, and a lot of other people are professing that this is what it's done, wouldn't it be worth trying? Wouldn't it?
Right, absolutely.
Like, why would you want to keep banging your head on the wall over and over and over again? These things
You have
don't.
nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose. Like if you want wealth, or if you want a great relationship, or if you want inner peace, or if you want happiness, whatever it is, and almost every single testimony has been, it goes beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Wouldn't you at least try it? Like I would suggest with people, do all 78 days. Just do it. It's not a lot of time. Like it could take 10 or 15 minutes of your day. If you don't have 10 or 15 minutes of your day to make your life what you want it to be, because this is just a tool. This is not a guru. This guy isn't you know, don't, it's not a cult. It's just like the TM transcendental meditation. It's just a technique. It's all it is a technique, just like yoga. It's just a technique.
And isn't it true, the consistency, the repetition of doing this is what helps us form new habits, right?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because none of these things are one-time things. You have to consistently do these every day. And most people are like, I don't have the time, I don't want to do that. And I'm like,
but it's like anything, right? Whether you're the greatest athlete in the world, you still have to practice. You still have to work out. You still have to train. You can't just walk out on the field and expect to be the best.
Well, it goes down to what are the things that you want most. And here's the great thing is, it'll explain to people why they don't have these things. It'll, like, this is what I love. This guy's a physicist. This guy's a scientist. And so it's not just all spiritual stuff. This is why this energy is doing this. This is why you will never get what you say you want, because you're not acting it. And you're caught up in this pendulum. And the energy doesn't work this way. I love it. I mean, because you're getting the marriage of the two worlds.
Absolutely. And there's no escaping it. You cannot fool it. It's
perfect,
like
Rod.
physics, right?
You can't fool it.
Right.
That's right.
And Nagel talks about this. Earl Nightingale talked about it. Wallace Wattles talked about it. Yeah. It's the same concept, but it's true. You have to believe. You have to truly believe it, and live it.
Well, you don't even have to believe it. It goes. I'm going to go back and say we could have ended this interview after 5 minutes, because you have to watch, because your mind and your ego working together could make you believe something that is not your ultimate thing.
And I'm glad you're correcting me, because I'm still learning, and I want other people
awareness,
to sure,
more awareness.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that I'm higher or you or whatever. I've just trained. I've just used this muscle more, which is all anybody has to do. And all I say is just start. It's just like I said, getting my fanny in the seat in front of my painting. All I say to the people that are watching this is just do it. Just start it. Just open the book. And if you don't like what it's saying, okay, try not to have an opinion about it. Just be aware. Be aware of, like, I don't like what he's saying. Where is that coming from? I don't like the fact that he said this. You still want to give back to the people that are your audience, which is, I'm in the same boat, because I came to you with this idea of having some sort of way that we could help tell people stories.
Yeah.
And you just shaped it into this whole thing. And it's just, I mean, it's just so fantastic, because that book, again, it's not what I say to people. If you read it and you're not ready for it, it's okay. You're just not ready for it at the time. But what I would caution anybody from doing, and I can't tell anybody how to react, is just don't judge it. Don't judge anything. And that's been my biggest thing. The awareness that I have right now, like, I judge every day, but I catch myself, and I'm like, why am I judging that right now?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Why am I judging that right now? And you know what? I remember having this conversation with you 1.5 years. And guess what, folks?
We're still judging.
I'm still judging.
Right.
The really great thing about now is I have such an awareness now that it's happening. It's almost as if I'm literally in my mind talking and literally becoming the awareness at the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't get mad.
It's almost amusing, right? You almost smile.
I laugh all the time. I'm laughing all the time, because I'm like, oh my God, I keep judging that same thing. It must be really ingrained in me. Okay. And then it goes away. And I actually like I wish I could get Hono. It's in a Hawaiian.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, just Google something close to that. That's a great thing about Google, is that it just comes up, and that's one of the things that gets me out. Because if I'm really caught up into it, and I'm judging something, I'll just say, I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you. That, if you read the story of how that came by, this I don't know if it was a doctor or what it was in Hawaii, but he healed people without even, he would just read their charts. He didn't even have to be in the room. He didn't even do anything other than read their charts. And there it goes back to Einstein, who discovered the fact that these things happen. You could be millions of miles away in space, and we're connected. We're just absolutely connected. And I know some people would say, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's okay. You don't have to believe it. Just experience it. Experience these things. The stuff that's happening now, like if we went on, we could go on for hours, and I could tell you stories, and I know because they happen to you and we talk about them. But I just sent you that video of that cardinal. You know?
Unbelievable.
So that's what happened when my mom died. Is these guys? Well, it happened with our good friend Mike Rahor. And this is before I had any of, like, this is when I was agnostic. I didn't believe in anything. And when Mike died, our friend at 42, had a massive heart attack. It affected us all because he was the glue that held us all together. And this guy left a beautiful family, and it was really amazing. And when we got down together and were in the car together, all from different points of the United States, none of us even telling a story. And all of a sudden, Matt, our friend Matt, said, "You guys, it was funny. I was driving to the airport, and I saw this cardinal, and I just thought it was Mike. And the same thing happened to me. The same thing happened to you, and the same thing happened to his brother Tim. And we're all literally in the car, and you would have thought we were all lying. Like, I literally got in the car, and I am bawling. I had to have my wife drive because I was in such bad. And I'm driving to Florida to the airport, and I literally, as we're going down the road, a cardinal swoops in front of the car, and I'm like, oh my God, did you see that cardinal? Like,
Got your attention.
Yeah. And this stuff happens, like, these kind of things are happening because guess what? You're operating at a level of consciousness that you are bringing the awareness and that you can see it. And there's a lot of people that will not believe this, and they'll say, it's just a coincidence. That's fine. Guess what? Call it a coincidence, but I don't believe there are coincidences. But if you're going to call it a coincidence, I love having these coincidences happening all the time.
That's right.
Because they only help me in my life, which then in turn helps other people. Because in the end, isn't that really what it's about?
Yeah.
Because you're finding that true self. You're allowing yourself to surrender to this moment. Because in the end, you can't really control anything other than being present. That's it. You have no control over anything. You could walk out. I could walk out there and die. I could, you just don't know what's going to happen. And guess what? The world, the universe is on your side. Even when it doesn't look like it is, it's there. People they say things, they act in certain ways. They're all in your life to teach you. You've brought them there. You brought them there through your energy. Right. It's life is the most amazing, mind-boggling thing you could ever comprehend. And you can't even comprehend it because of the intricacies of what happens. And that's the thing is, the easier you allow life to happen, the more that you surrender, the better, the more peace you have. It's the exact opposite of how we have been told. And so that's why it's so hard. It's so hard for us because of this addiction to thinking. It's really what's got us into this place. And another one, let's end on one thing, because I really follow. I don't have a book of his, Eckhart Tolle. And he has 2 books, The Power of Now, which really helped me in A New Earth. And the irony is that when I travel back to Florida, he's going to be in Miami within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm going to be there. It's be the first time that I've actually gotten to see him in person. And he's probably the person that I say, wow, if that's the person I want to, I don't even necessarily want to meet him. I just want to be in the same room, because he vibrates at a certain level, and his message is as powerful as anyone that I've ever heard, and as consistent as I've ever heard. And if there's one person that I follow that I cannot find anything I have yet to find anything that I disagree with not a thing. So, and I'm constantly looking. In my opinion, he is the closest thing walking this face of the earth, probably as what Jesus Christ was back in the day that he was walking this earth. And I know there are people who will be like, I disagree with you, but I have to tell you, I allow myself to keep surrendering to this message, and it is extremely powerful. And it's extremely consistent in terms of its, like, it's just consistent. So I am really looking forward to just being in his actual presence. So
Eckhart Tolle.
stay tuned. Yeah.
Tony, I'm so glad we had this conversation. We didn't have, this was not planned.
Not planned. You texted me at lunchtime.
Yes, but I knew we had to do it. I knew there was a reason,
Yep.
and we always have great conversations. I have some other ideas too that I'm not going to throw out now, but we'll be talking about
Great.
that. But
Let's let it flow. Let's surrender to it.
And thanks for everything that you've done for American Real, and continue to support us and all of your positive energy. And I know people are going to get so much out of this conversation. So just thanks for being you.
And thank you for doing this, because I could never do this. And so for me, I'm living this through you. Like you're literally doing it. You're doing it. And it's really inspiring.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tony Brunelli, thanks so much.